Neil Gaiman. Library. Part 1. Snow glass apples. I do not know what manner of the thing she is. None of us do. She killed her mother in the building, but that's never enough to account for it. They call me wise, but I am far from wise. For that foresaw fragments of it, frozen moments, catch in pools of water, or in the cold grass of my mirror. If I were wise, I would not have tried to change what I saw. If I were wise, I would have killed myself before ever I encountered her, before ever I catch her. Wise than a witch, so they say, and I'd seen his face in my dreams, in the reflection of all of my life, 16 years of dreaming of him before he reined his horse by the bridge that morning and asked my name. He helped me onto his high horse and we rode together to my little cottage, my face buried in the gold of his hair. He asked for the best of what I had. A king's right it was. His beard was red bronze in the morning light, but I knew him, not as a king, for I knew nothing of kings then, but as my love. He took all he wanted from me, the right of kings, but he returned to me on the following day and on the night after that. His beard so red, his beard so red, his hair so gold, his eyes so blue of a summer sky, his skin tan of a gentle brown of ripe wheat. His daughter was only a child, no more than 5 years of age when I came to the palace. A portrait of her dead mother hung in the prince's tower room, but a woman, her the color of dark wood, eyes not brown. She was of different blood to her poor daughter. The girl would not eat with us. I do not know where in the palace she ate. I had my own chambers. My husband, the king, he had his own rooms also. When he wanted me, he would send for me, and I would go to him and pleasure him and take my pleasure with him. One night, several months after I was brought to the palace, she came to my rooms. She was 6. I was embroidering by lamplight, squinting my eyes against the lamp smoke and fitful illumination. She looked at me and smiled. Her teeth seemed sharp even then, in the lamplight. Princess? She said nothing. Her eyes were black as coal, black as her hair. Her lips were redder than blood. What are you doing away from your room? I am hungry. It was winter, and fresh food is a dream of warmth and silent sunlight, but I had strings of whole apples, cold and dried, hanging from the beams of my chamber. I put an apple down for her here. I had to miss the time of drying, the preserving, a time of picking apples, of rendering the goose fat. Winter is the time of hunger, of snow and death. It is the time of the midwinter feasts, while we wrap the goose fat in the skin of a whole pig, stuffed with dead Autumn's apples. Then we roast it, unspit it, and we prepare to feast upon the cracking. She took the dried apple from me and began to chew it with her sharp teeth. Is it good? She nodded. I had always been scared of the little princess, but in that moment I warmed to her, and with my fingers gently I stroked her cheek. She looked at me and smiled. She smiled, but rarely. Then she sank her teeth into the base of my thumb, the mount of Venus, and she drew blood. I began to shriek from pain and from surprise, but she looked at me, and I fell silent. The little princess fastened her mouth to my hand and licked and sucked and drank. When she was finished, she left my chamber. Beneath my gaze, the cat that she had made began to close, to scab and to heal. The next day it was a dull scar. I might have cut my hand with a pocket knife in my childhood. I had been frozen by her, owned and dominated. That scared me more than the blood she had fed on. After that night, I locked my chamber door at dusk, barring it with an oaken pole, and I had the smite forge iron bars which you place across my windows. My husband, my love, my cook, sent for me less and less. And when I came to him, he was dizzy, listless, confused. He could no longer make love as a man makes love, as he would not permit me to pleasure him with my mouth. Don't I tried? He started violently and began to weep. I put my mouth away, and he held him tightly until the sobbing had stopped and he slept like a child. I ran my finger across his skin as he slept. It was covered in a multitude of ancient scars. But could recall no scars from the days of our courtship, save one on his side where a ball had gored him when he was a youth. Soon he was the shadow of a man I had met and loved by the bridge. His bones showed blue and white beneath his skin. His daughter was coming to him every night, I think. I was with him at the last. His hands were cold as stone, his eyes milky blue, his head and the beard faded and lustrous and limp. He died on shriveled, his skin nippled and puckered from head to toe with tiny old scars. He waited next to nothing. The ground was frozen hard, and he could dig no grave for him. So I made a cairn of rocks and stones above his body. As memorial only, for there was little enough of him left to protect from the hunger of the beasts and the birds. So I was a queen, and I was foolish and young. 18 summers had come and gone since I first saw daylight, and I did not do what I would do now. If I were today, I would have her heart cut out through. But then I would have her head and arms and legs cut off. I would have them disembowel her, and then I watch in the town squares the hangman heated the fire to white heat with bellows, watch unblinking as he consigned each part of her to the fire. I would have archers around the square who would shoot on a bird or animal that came close to the flames, and a raven or duck or hawk or rat. And I would not close my eyes until the princess was ash, and the gentle wind could scatter her like snow. I did not do this thing and pay for mistakes. They say I was fooled, that it was not her heart, that it was the heart of an animal, a stag perhaps, or a bull. They said that, and they are wrong. And some say, but it is a lie, not mine, that I was given the heart and that I ate it. Lies and half-truths fall like snow, covering the things that I remember, the things I saw, a landscape, unrecognizable, after a snowfall. That is what she has made of my life. There were scars of my love, her father's things, on his buttocks pouch and on his male member when he died. I did not go with them. They took her in the day while she slept and was at her weakest. They took her to the heart of the forest, and there they opened her blows. The forest is a dark place, the border to many kingdoms. No one would be foolish enough to claim jurisdiction over it. Outlaws lives in the forest, robbers lives in the forest, and so the wolves. They cut her heart, and they left her dead in a gully for the forest to swallow. You can ride through the forest for 1,000 days and never see a soul, but their eyes upon you the entire time. They brought me her heart. I know it was no soul's heart, or those would have continued to beat and pulse after it had been cut out, as that one did. I took it to my chamber. I did not eat it. Outside the snow fell, covering the footprints of my huntsman, covering her tiny body in the forest where it lay. I had the smiths remove the iron bars from my windows, and I would spend some time in my room each afternoon through the short winter days, gazing out of that forest until darkness fell. I hung the heart from the beams above my bed, placed it on the length of twine that I strung with rowan berries, orange threads, a robin's breast, and with bulbs of garlic. There were, as I have already stated, people in the forest. They would come out, some of them for the spring fair, a greedy fair, dangerous people. Some were stunned dwarfs and pygmies and hatchbacks. Others had the huge teeth and vacant gazes of idiots. Some had fingers like flippers or crab claws. They would creep out of the forest each year for the spring fair, held when the snows had melted. As a young lass, I had walked at the fair, and they had scared me then, the forest folk, at the fortunes of the fairgoers, scrying the pool of the still water. And later, when I was older, in a disk of polished glass, its back all silver, a gift from a merchant, whose strange house I had seen in a pool of ink. The subtle hoarders and the fair were afraid of the forest folk. They would neither wares to bear boards of their stalls, slabs, gingerbread, or leather belts were nailed with great iron nail to the wood. If their wares were not nailed, they say, the forest folk would take them and run away, chewing on the stolen gingerbread, flailing about them with the belts. The forest folk had money, toad a coin there, another there, sometimes stained green by time, or the earth, or face on one coin unknown to even the oldest of us. Also, they had things to trade, and thus the fair continued serving the outcast and the dwarfs, serving the robbers if they were circumspect, who preyed on the rare travellers from lands beyond the forest, or on gypsies, or on the deer. This was robbery in the eyes of the law. The deer were the queens. The years passed by slowly, and my people claim that I ruled them with wisdom. The heart still hung above my bed, pulsing gently in the night. If there were any who mauled the child, I saw no evidence. She was a thing of terror back then, and they believed themselves well rid of her. Spring fair fall by spring fair. 5 of them each sadder, poorer, shorter. Then the one before, further on the forest folk, came out of the forest to buy. Those who did seem subdued and listless, and star hoarders stopped nailing their wares to the bolts of their star. And by the 5th year, but a handful of folk came from the forest, a fearful huddle of little hairy men, and no one else. Lord of the Fair and his page came to me when the fair was done. I had known him slightly before I was a queen. I do not come to you as my queen. I said nothing, I listened. I come to you because you are wise. When you were a child, you found a straight fall by starting into a pool of ink. When you were made a maiden, you found a lost infant who had wandered far from her mother by starting into that mirror of yours. You know secrets, and you can seek out things hidden. My queen, why is taking forced form? Next year there will be no spring fair. The travellers from other kingdoms have grown scarce, and a few of folk of the forest are almost gone. Another year like the last, and we shall all starve. I commanded my maidservant to bring me my looking glass. It was a simple thing, a silverback glass disc, which I kept wrapped in doeskin in a chest in my chamber. They brought it to me then, and I gazed into it. She was no longer a little child. Her skin was still pale, her eyes and hair coal black, her lips as red as blood. She wore the clothes she had worn when she left the castle for the last time, the blouse, the skirt, although they were much let out, much mended. Over them she wore a leather cloak, and instead of boots she had leather bags tied with tongues over her tiny feet. She was standing in the forest beside a tree. So watching the eye of my mind, I saw her edge and step and flittered and passed from tree to tree like an animal, a bat or a wolf. She was following someone. He was a monk. He wore sackcloth and his feet were bare and scabbled and hard. His beard and torso were of a length overgrown and shaven. She watched him from behind the trees. Eventually, he paused for the night and began to make a fire, laying twigs down, breaking up a robin's nest as kindling. There had been 2 eggs in the nest he had found, and those he ate raw. They cannot have been much of a meal for so big a man. He sat there in the firelight, and she came out from her hiding place. She crouched down on the other side of the fire and stared at him. He grinned. As if it were a long time since he had seen another human, and beckoned her over to him. She stood up and walked around the fire and waited an arm's length away. He poured in his robe and found a tiny copper penny and tossed it to her. She catch it and nodded and went to him. He pulled at the rope around the waist, and his robe swung up, and his body was as hairy as a bear's. She pushed him back onto the moss one had crept, spider-like, through the tangle of hair until it closed on his manhood. The other had traced a circle on his left nipple. He closed his eyes and fumbled one huge hand under her skirt. She lowered her mouth to the nipple she had been teasing, a smooth skin white of the furry brown body of him. She sank her teeth deep into his breast. His eyes opened and they closed again as she drank. She straddled him and she fed. As she did so, a thin blackish liquid began to dribble from between her legs. Do you not know what is keeping the travelers from all time? What is happening to the forest people? I covered the mirror in the skin and told him that I would personally take it upon myself to make the forest safe once more. I had to, thought she terrified me. I was the queen. A foolish woman would have gone down into the forest and tried to capture the creature, but I had been foolish once and had no wish to be so a second time. I spent time with old books, for I could read a little. I spent time with the gypsy woman who passed through our country across the mountains to the south, watered and crossed the forest to the north and the west. I prepared myself and obtained those things I would need. When the first snows began to fall, then I was ready. naked, I was sent alone in the highest tower of the palace, a place open to the sky. The winds chilled my body, goose pimples crept across my arms and thighs and breasts. I carried a silver basin and a basket in which I placed a silver knife, a silver pin, some tongs, a grey rope, and 3 green apples. I put them on a stood there, unclothed, on the tower humble before the night sky and the wind. Had any man seen me standing there, I would have had his eyes, but there was no one to spy. Clouds scudded across the sky, hiding and uncovering the waning moon. I took the silver knife and slashed my right arm once, twice, 3 times. The blood dipped into the basin, scarlet, seeming black in the moonlight. I added the powder from the vial that hung around my neck. It was a brown dust made of dried herbs and the skin of a particle toad and from certain other things. It thickened the blood while preventing it from clotting. I took the 3 apples one by one and pricked their skins gently with my silver pin. Then I placed the apples in the silver bowl. I let them sit there while the first tiny flakes of snow of the year fell slowly onto my skin and onto the apples and onto the blood. When dawn began to brighten the sky, I covered myself with a grey cloak. I took the red apples from the silver bowl. I lifted each into my basket with silver tongs, taking care not to touch it. There was nothing left of my blood or the brown powder in the silver bowl, nothing save a black residue like verdigers on the inside. I buried the bowl in the earth. Then I cast a glamour on the apples. As once years before, by a bridge, I had cast a glamour on myself. That they were beyond any doubt the most wonderful apples in the world, and the crimson blush of their skins was the marked color of fresh blood. I pulled the hook of my cloak low over my face. I took ribbons and pretty hair ornaments with me, placed them above the apples in the reed basket. I walked along into the forest until I came to her dwelling, a high sandstone cliff laced with deep caves, going back away into the rocky wall. There were trees and boulders around the cliff face, and I walked quietly and gently from tree to tree without disturbing a twig or a fallen leaf. Eventually, I found my place to hide, and I waited and watched. After some hours, a clutch of dwarfs crawled out of the cave front, ugly, mishappen. However, little man, the all inhabitants of this country, you saw them seldom now. They vanished into the wood, and none of them espied me, till one of them stopped to piss against the rock I hid behind. I waited, no more came out. I went to the cave entrance, and I hollowed into it, and I crackled all voice. The skull of my mouth of Venus troubled and paused as she came towards me, out of the darkness, naked and alone. Nothing marred the perfect whiteness of her skin, save for the livid scar on her left breast where her heart had been cut from her long since. The side of her thighs were stained with wet black felt. She peered at me, hidden. As I was in my cloak, she looked at me hungrily. Ribbons, good wife, pretty ribbons for your hair. She smiled and beckoned at me. A tuck of scar on my hand was pulling me towards her. I did what I had planned to do, but I did more readily than I had planned. I dropped my basket and screeched like a bloodless old peddler woman. I was pretending to be a ant. I ran. My grey cloak was the color of the forest, and I was fast. She did not catch me. I made my way back to the palace. I did not see it. But as imagined thought, the girl returning frustrated and hungry to her cave and finding my fallen basket on the ground. What did she do? I like to think she played first with the ribbons, twined them into her raven hair, looped them around her pen neck or her tiny waist, and then, curious, she moved the cloth to see what else was in the basket, and she saw the red apples. They smell like fresh apples, of course, and they also smelled of blood, and she was hungry. I imagine her picking up an apple, pressing it against her cheek, feeling the cold smoothness of it against her skin as she opened her mouth a bit deep into it. By the time I reached my chambers, the hat that hung from the roof beam with the apples and hams and the dried sausages had ceased to be. A hand there, quietly without notion of life, and I felt safe once more. Or did I? The winter does not were high and deep, and were late melting. We were hungry come the spring. The spring fare was slightly improved that year. The forest were few, but they were here, and there were travelers from the lands beyond the forest. I saw the little hairy man of the forest cave buying and bargaining for pieces of glass, lamps of crystal and quartz rock. They paid for glass with silver coins, the spoils of my stepdaughters, the predations I had no doubt. When it got about what they were buying, those four rushed back to the homes and came back with the lucky crystals and, in a few cases, with whole sheets of glass. I thought briefly about having the little man killed, but I did not. As long as the heart hung silent and immobile and cold from being moved my chamber, I was safe. So were the fogs of the forest and thus eventually the fog of the town. My 25th year came, and my stepdaughter had eaten the poisoned food to win his back when the prince came to my palace. He was tall, very tall, with cold green eyes, and the swarthy skin of those from beyond the mountains. Cimmerian, perhaps. He rode with a small retinue, large enough to defend him, small enough that another monarch, myself for instance, would not view him as a potential threat. I was practically a thought of the alliance of Orient, thought of the kingdom running from the forest all the way south to the sea. I thought of my golden-haired bearded love, dead those 8 years, and in the night I went to the prince's room. I am no innocent, I thought my late husband was, who was once my king, was truly my first lover, no matter what they say. At first the prince seems excited. He bade me remove my shift and made me stand in front of the opened window, far from the fire, until my skin was chilled stone cold. Then he asked me to lie upon my back with my hands folded across my breasts, my eyes wide open but staring only at the beams above. He told me not to move and to breathe as little as possible. He implored me to say nothing. He spread my legs open. It was then that he entered me. As he began to thrust inside me, I felt my hips raise. I must say, begin to match him, grinned for grinned, push for push, I'm out. Could not help myself. His manhood slid out of me. I reached out and touched it. A tiny slippery thing. Please. You must neither move nor speak. Just lie there on the stones. So cold and so far. I tried, but he had lost whatever force it was that had made him retire. Some short while later I left the prince's room, his curses and tears still resounding in my ears. He left early the next morning with all his men, and they rode off into the forest. I imagine his lions. Now, as he rode a note of frustration at the base of his manhood, I imagine his pale lips pressed so tightly together. Then I imagine his little troop riding through the forest, finally coming upon the glass and crystal cane of my stepdaughter. so pale, so cold, naked beneath the glass and little more than a girl in death. In my fancy, I can always feel a sudden hardness of his manhood as I his breeches and vision the last that took him down. The price he muttered beneath his breath in thanks for his good fortune. Or did they look up to see his men on their horses, with their sharp swords, spears, and realize they have no alternative? Did they take his gold willingly? I imagine him negotiation with the little hairy man, offering them gold and spices for the lovely corpse under the crystal mound. I didn't know, I was not there, I was not scrying. I can only imagine. Imagine all the people, hands pulling off the lumps of glass, quartz from her cold body, hearts gently caressing her cold cheek, moving her cold arm, rejoicing to find the corpse still fresh and pliable. Did he take her there in front of them all? Or did he have her carried to a secluded nook before he mounted her? Did he shake the apple from her throat? Or did her eyes slowly open as he pondered into her cold body? Did her mouth open, those red lips part, those sharp yellow teeth? Did close on her swarthy neck as her blood winched in the light, tricked down her throat, washing down and away the lumps of apple, my poison? I imagine. I do not know. This I do know. I was woken in the night by her heart pulsing and hitting once more. Saw the blood dripping onto my face from above. I sat up, my hand burned and pounded, as if I had hit the base of my tomb with a rock. There was a hammering at the door. I felt afraid, but I am a queen and I would not show fear. I opened the door. First the men walked into my chamber and stood around me with their sharp swords and their long spears. Then he came in and spat in my face. Finally she walked into the chamber as she had when I was first a queen, as she was a child of 6. She had not changed, not really. She pulled down the twine on which her heart was hanging. She pulled off the thread rowan berries one by one. Pulled off the garlic bulb. Now I tried to think after all those years. Then she took her honor, her pumpkin heart. A small thing no larger than that on a nanny goat, and our she-bear, as it brimmed and pumped its blood into her hand, she finger-nailed, must have been as sharp as glass. She opened her breast with them, running them over the purple scar. Her chest gaped suddenly open and bloodless. She licked her heart once as the blood ran over her hands, as she pushed her heart deep into her breast. I saw her do it. I saw her close the flesh of her breast once more. Her prince looked briefly concerned, but he put his arms around her nevertheless, and they stood side by side and they waited. And she stayed cold, and the bloom of death remained on her lips, and his last was not diminished in any way. He told me they would marry, and the kingdoms would indeed be joined. They told me that I would be with them on their wedding day. It is starting to get hot in here. They have told the people bad things about me, or is it true to add savor to the dish? But mixed with many lies, I was bound in keeping a tiny stone cell beneath the palace. I reminded her through that today they fetched me out of the cell. They stripped the rags from me and washed the fear from me, and then they shaved my head and my lions, and they rubbed my skin with goose grease. The snow was falling as they carried me, 2 men at each end, 2 men at each leg, utterly exposed and spread, eagle and cold, through the midwinter crowds, and brought me to this kiln. My stepdaughter stood there with her prince. She watched me in my indignity, but she said nothing. As they trussed me, jeering and chaffing as they did so, I saw one snowflake land upon her white cheek, and remained there without melting. They closed the kiln door behind me. It is getting hotter in there. Outside there are singing and chewing and banging on the sides of the kiln. She was not laughing, nor jeering, nor talking. She looked at me through, and for a moment I saw myself reflected in her eyes. I would not scream. I would not give them the satisfaction. They will have my body, but my soul and my story are my own. I will die with me. The goose grease begins to melt and glisten upon my skin. I shall make no sound at all. I shall think no more of this. I shall think instead of the snowflake on her cheek. I think of her hair as black as coal, her lips redder than blood, her skin snow white.